And here at Capitol, they had a display and set up exactly what a bunk would look like. We're going to take a look at that. All right, now this is what it would be the size of it if it was there was a double bunk in these cells.
I think most people have closets bigger than you know what the cell is. So it's about maybe the size of an average bathroom in one of our houses. It's so small, and they're designed for one person. They're going to put 2 people in cells like that. Don't tell me that we're not going to have increased violence in our prisons, putting our officers at risk. This really comes down to officer safety. Yes, we have a tremendous economic issue, but there's a huge safety issue that we have to talk about. This is what we had in the past. You know, about 10 years ago, we've been working hard to get away from that, to get back to our safe levels. We're at those levels. Actually, we're a little full. Our capacity is above 100%. It's more like 120 in our maximums, and it's, you know, like 97% in our medium facilities. So we are actually finally right-sized, and now they're just, the Department of Corrections is just going to have us go back to the dangerous working conditions that has taken us 10 years to get out of.
There's been some concern that the Department of Corrections has the ability to kind of fudge numbers so they can do this double bunking.
Well, the double bunking enables them to fudge numbers because, you know, they include these double bunks as open slots. They don't talk about the fact that we have, you know, this number of regular beds and this number of double bunks. They put it all into one number and try to, you know, push it by, you know, run it by people so quickly that they don't realize that we're actually talking about unsafe housing. And so they'll say, you know, we have 4,000 empty beds, but those are all double bunked beds, okay? And so they are able to manipulate that way. You know, they also decide what's safe and what isn't. So they could say that having, you know, 70 or 80 inmates in a slot in a space that's meant for 50, they can then say that that's safe, and then they could even further manipulate the numbers and say, well, now we have 10,000 beds that are empty, simply because they put a top bunk on a bed. They really can do that. They absolutely can.
Now, there's obviously the reason they want to close these facilities, or they're saying they want to close these facilities, is economic reasons. The state's got a huge deficit. Pretty much every area has been cut. But while they're looking to close prisons and lose corrections officers' jobs, there seems to be an area that's growing within this corrections department, and that's the
administration. Administration. They have 907 employees in Building 2 here in Albany. You know, we ought to be looking at cutting the administration fat here. It's amazing to look at their organizational chart. It just goes on and on and on. When the real work of guarding and of providing the programs is done at the facility. And at each facility, they have a layer of administration to manage what goes on at each facility. The amount of administration is out of control. They could cut the Building 2 employees by 20%, and that would save, you know, just basic math, $15 million, and that's an estimate. It could be more. There are so many people working in Albany with high salaries, over $100,000, and you know, they can also, you know, we should be looking at Albany to make cuts instead of making cuts in areas where the economy just cannot sustain those cuts.
Now some of these almost, you said there's over 900 employees in Building 2 alone. Some of these employees, the higher-ups, get perks as well.
Yes, and a lot of those are out at each facility. You know, at these different prison sites, there's housing offered for the higher-ups who are already making those good salaries. So oftentimes they get free housing, which is free rent, free taxes. They also, many of them get their gas paid for or get mileage reimbursement. There's executive teams are entitled to a more than just what their salary base is. And, you know, those things need to be cut out too, just as much as Building 2 needs to be cut. You know, our officers are being displaced, are going to be treated horribly. They spend 8 years trying to get back home. It's really unfair. They're in the same position as administration, and they should be treated equally.
And what we're seeing are some of the houses that the superintendents get their homes paid for.
Mm-hmm. Some of them, I mean, are like mansions. They're just huge buildings, or huge homes on waterfront. They're expensive. I'm not sure what justification you can have for having, some of the best homes in an area paid for by the state. It just doesn't make sense, especially in times like this. We should be working on saving jobs instead of giving perks out.
We got a little more than a minute left. I know you've been very vocal. You've had the rally, the town hall meetings. What else have you done or can you do to try to stop the closure?
Well, I have reached out to the leaders here in Albany. I have met with governor's staff. The governor wouldn't meet with me. I met with Commissioner Fisher about this issue. I have spoken with my colleagues at length. I've spoken up in our conference to explain to them what it's going to mean. I've gotten a lot of good support from my colleagues. One colleague who even offered to close her downstate prison to save hours, which it's wonderful. That gets at the point where they could redevelop their prison site, but we wouldn't be able to redevelop the one in Ogdensburg. As I mentioned, I hosted a town forum, which I was unable to attend at the last minute due to a death in the family, but Assemblywoman Skozafava stood in for me. We have a strong bipartisan support for this effort, and we're just continuing to build those. We're looking forward to advocacy days. The union reps have already been here. A lot of the footage was from their time here in Albany, working to educate other legislators, and there'll be a trip down from Ogdensburg with community members, with families. So that's what we're looking forward to.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Our guest, Assemblywoman Addie Russell from the 118th Assembly District, which includes Jefferson and St. Lawrence counties. Thank you all for joining us. We'll see you again next time.